Welcome to the Winning in Business podcast. I'm your host, Kelly Rissy, and I love talking to business professionals, leaders, and entrepreneurs who are winning in business. Are you ready to reach your next level of success? If so, join us on the Winning in Business podcast as I interview entrepreneurs, business professionals, and leaders who share how they've risen to success. Before we begin, go ahead, hit subscribe and the notification button so you'll be notified each time a new episode is released. Plug in and settle in. You're about to be inspired to rise up to your next level of success. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Winning in Business. I'm Kelly Rissy, your podcast host. And today I am here with Lisa York, the owner of Beacon Payments Midwest. And I am super excited to interview Lisa. And let me share a little bit about her before we get started. So Lisa has 38 years of sales and customer service experience in shoes, newspaper and radio advertising, jewelry, and merchant services. She resides in the O'Fallon, Illinois area for 30 years, and she's been married for 32 years with 3 children. And she is there's so many things that we're going to talk about. I love that she's going to tell us about being an orchestra participant and, the instrument she plays and some of the networking things she does and just really how she grew her own business. But I'm going to let her share all of that. So Lisa, I want to welcome you onto the podcast today.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here.
Yeah. So let's go ahead. Let's just dive right in because I feel like you're going to share just a wealth of knowledge over your 38 years of experience here. So how did you get into what you're doing now, being the owner of Beacon Payments Midwest? Like, how did you get into that based on everything, all your experience?
So I have to say, when you actually say it out loud, 38 years, man, it sounds kind of old. But anyway, before I had my current career, I was selling radio advertising. And I loved what I did, but I had 2 children, and then I had the 3rd baby, and it got to a point where I loved my children and I hated my job. And so I thought, I just can't do this anymore. And I ended up actually taking a 3-month kind of working maternity leave with the 3rd baby, and he was born in May. And so I spent the entire summer with my kids at the pool, and it was so great. And I loved it. I had such a great time. And then the 3 months was over, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't leave my kids. And so I said to my husband, I'm really sorry, but I can't go back to work. And he got this horrible deer in the headlight look because way back 25 years ago, I was making 6 figures. And so as you can imagine, it was going to be a huge change for us and for our lifestyle. So he said, could you do something? So I had been to a couple of Premier Designs jewelry parties, and the lady had always tried to get me to sell. And I always said, oh no, I have this great job. I would never do this. And so she, I think, fell out of her chair when I called her and said, hey, I think I want to do this. And so for 17 years, I sold Premier Designs jewelry. And it was perfect because I could be home with my kids. As the kids got into school, I was the room mom and PTO and art class and all those great things. And I completely made my own schedule, which is what I wanted. I worked 8 to 10 nights a month, which isn't really that much, but I loved what I was doing. And life was very good. And I'm very, very blessed to have been able to do that. So then, as everybody knows, kids grow up.
Yeah.
And so they did. And I was thinking, what am I going to do? And Premier had changed a little bit with all of the online marketing. And, the heyday of the home party was over. And I just didn't know what I was going to do with myself. And my brother called me. Now, there's 6 of us, and my brother is the youngest, and I'm the oldest. So it's a little odd when your baby brother owns a business and calls you and says, do you want to work for me? Because your immediate instinct is, how does he know anything? I tucked him into bed at night.
Right.
Right. So he called me and I said to him, well, I'll give it a try, but I'm not going to like it. I said, I've been my own boss for 17 years. I can't work for anybody. And he said, well, it's 1099. You can do what you want. So I thought, well, I'm not going to like this, but I'll try it. So he owned a company that provided merchant service or credit card processing for local businesses. So I started doing it. And what I realized was, although I didn't and still don't, quite frankly, love the industry, because like many industries, there are a lot of people not doing what's best for the customer. I'll just say it like that. But what I remembered from those years back when I sold radio advertising was I always had this passion for the small or local business owner. And I had really forgotten about that in all those years. And so I loved doing it, again, not because of the industry, but because I loved working with business owners. So I worked for him for a couple of years. And then I'm sure you can relate to this, and many of your listeners can relate to this. When you have some longevity in an industry, people call you, they want to hire you. And I just always said no right off the bat because I worked for my brother. So what could get better than that, right? So I got a call from a guy who said, I just have some leads in your area and we need someone to follow up on them. So I called my brother and I said, why wouldn't I do this? He said, why wouldn't you do this? So I did. And then I had this realization, I always have been and I always will be about what's best for the customer, whether that's what's best for me or not. And so I realized that if I had my own company and I formed an LLC, I could be like an independent insurance broker and I could work with different back-end processors. And then I really and truly would have all the solutions that my merchants needed. So I did. Here I am.
Excellent. That's excellent. And so how did your brother feel when you left him?
That is a very good question, actually. I'll say there was a little bit of angst, but we're good.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
Thankfully, he really did want what's best for me, which I appreciate. Yes. So as soon as he got over the shock of, wait a minute, she's doing something else a little bit, but we're good now. Matter of fact, we're having a family reunion in July at his lake house in New Hampshire. So we're
okay.
Good.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. I think it's so important as business owners or salespeople or whatever, that we always go into everything with the mentality of that win-win, right? Or the win-win-win, or however many people are involved, right? And that it's a win for the customer, it's a win for the business, you know what I mean? So that just makes everything so much better when everybody's getting the win. So I like that. Okay, so then share, what are some of the big ahas that have contributed to your success all these years? And, before we even go into that, something that I want to say, I love the fact that there are direct sales companies out there that can provide moms opportunities, right? It's mostly women, not always, but it's mostly women that get into that can do that. And, I was a part of one at one time that does allow you to either bring in extra money if you're someone that's working, at a job and like, here's your set income, right?
Yep.
Or it allows you the freedom to be at home with your kids and be able to work, X amount of hours a week and just build the income that you want to. So that's just a plug for some direct sales companies out there. And if you're someone that needs that plan B income to help you do that, like that's a great thing. So anyway.
Well, I have to say, I agree with you 100%. And I'm forever grateful that I had that opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And I really believe, there's a scripture in the Bible that talks about there's a time for everything, a season for every activity under heaven. And as women, sometimes we feel like we have to do it all. And I think we can do it all, but it might not always be at the exact same time.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a really great time in my life. And now I moved on to a new great time in my life. And I think as women, we need to remember that.
Yes. Oh, that's great. That's great. That's like a tip right there in itself. Okay, but keep going. So what are some ahas that you want to share that you feel like have really contributed to your success?
So mine have happened, I'm sure like everyone, at different times in my life. So when I was 11 years old, my father passed away. And I already said I'm the oldest of 6 kids. And my mom was pregnant with my baby brother who owned the company. So as you can imagine, it was a really hard, horrible time for us. Mm-hmm. And, my mom went out and got 3 jobs and we grew up really poor. I mean, we never went without food, but we were pretty poor, and food stamps, powdered milk, and it wasn't fun.
Mm-hmm.
And so I knew as I grew older, I knew I didn't want to live that way. Not that it was anybody's fault, but I just didn't want to live that way. And so the aha for me was, if I work hard and I make something of myself, I don't have to stay in that, I don't want to say call it poverty, but in that pretty dire situation.
Yes.
And so for me, that circumstance gave me the work ethic that I have. And I think to be successful, somehow you have to figure out how to have a work ethic. You know, we always say we didn't give our kids a family business, but we gave them a good work ethic.
Yes.
And no one can take that away from you.
Yes.
And especially in sales, you know, you have to find that intrinsic motivation and reason to keep going, because we all know it can be hard. So that was the first aha moment I had, was I got to get out of this, which incidentally is what kind of brought me to St. Louis. I'm from Boston, and I had a job offer in St. Louis. Didn't know anything about St. Louis. You know, that if you look at geography, the East Coast mentality is over here's the East Coast and over here's the West Coast, and then there's green grass in the middle.
Right.
And I had that mentality, but I helped raise 5 kids, you know. And so when I had a job offer in St. Louis, I was like, St. Where? Okay, I'm going. So my first job moved me out here, and that's kind of how I got started in this area. So that was my first big, I'm not living like this the rest of my life. And then some of my aha moments are kind of borrowed from things that I've read, which I'm sure most of us borrow. So,
yes.
And some of them I have to give some credit, and you'll know some of these. But one of my very favorites, and I actually read him in college for the first time, was Zig Zigler.
Yeah.
And I just love him. You know, he says you'll get all you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want. And I think that is so true. In my business, I meet with business owners all day, every day. And my goal is really to help them with what they need. And sometimes, not often, but sometimes what they need is different than what I have to offer. I'll say occasionally.
Yeah.
You know, but what happens is they appreciate it so much that you can end up getting referrals. You know, for example, if you're a school auction and you have one event a year, you don't want to process those credit cards with me. I'm just not the right solution. And so I'll tell them that. So there are a few examples of businesses that need something other than what I really can offer. And so I really think that if you look out for someone else's best interest, it all comes back to you many, many times. So I am very involved in BNI, which is a great networking organization. And when I got to BNI, one of their core values is something called Giver's Gain. And I'd never heard of it. And then they told me what it was. You know, if I give to you, you're going to want to give to me. And I thought, oh, that's my life. That's me.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know there was a name for it. So BNI was a very natural fit for me. And it's one of the things I love, is connecting people and helping people. And especially, of course, the business owners that I come across. And the theory hasn't failed me yet.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love that. And I too live by that also. And I think the coolest thing about it is, you know, giving, you never know what you're going to receive, when you're going to receive it, and even how you're going to receive it, because what we give out, right, isn't going to come back to us always in the same way. Like it can come back, you know what I mean? Like
Yes.
A smile out to somebody else can be returned to us in a completely different way, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? So
it does. And that's the beauty of it.
Powerful. Yes.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
And I think you have to keep your eyes open for those things that come back too, and for those blessings. You know, you have to be aware of them.
Yes. And always just knowing that anytime we're helping other people in whatever capacity it is, we're creating that energy, and that energy that then is going out into the world that continues to create more. And it's the ripple effect, right? You know, as well. So yeah, that's great. Okay, good. All right. What else you got?
Okay. So I have a friend who is the director of the Troy Maryville St. Jacob Marine Chamber. That's kind of a hard one to say. Dawn, I hope I did it right. So she's a wonderful lady. Her name's Dawn Michelle. And I've heard her speak a few times, and she kind of specializes in customer service. And her big proposition that is an aha moment for me is to always have a wow factor. She says when the transaction's finished, the customer needs to say wow. So my wow factor is that I personally install every terminal and all of my customers have my cell phone number. So whatever they need, whenever they need it. I mean, let me clarify. I don't get random calls all the time or at 2 a.m. If I did, it'd be a different story. Because thankfully, things work most of the time.
Right.
But if they don't, then your customer really needs you. And so they have access.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, there's backups, if I'm out of the country or whatever.
Yes.
So I just think that's really important to have a wow factor. I'll tell you a good example that's a cute story. So my youngest son is in Kansas City, and he works for a logistics company. And he just this is a brand new job for him. And he's going to be doing like cradle to grave sales for the logistics company. And so he is cold calling for the first time. Now he has two parents who are in sales. He's seen lots of cold calling. So he's on the phone, checking LinkedIn. He's just calling like a crazy person. And he called me a little discouraged. And I said, how many calls did you make? And then I said, how many people did you actually talk to? Well, out of all his calls, he talked to 3 people. And I said, you got someone. It's good.
Yeah.
Right? Now, of those 3 people, no one was interested. And, if you're in sales, especially if you've been in sales for a long time, you know that this is how it goes. And you build and build, and it's a pipeline, and it takes time.
Mm-hmm.
So I said to him, listen, you need to go get some thank you cards and some stamps. And every person that you talk to, you are going to send them a note and say, hey, thanks for chatting with me on the phone today. I realize you don't need my services right now, but if you do, I'll be available at a later date. I said, and that's your wow factor, because I promise you, no one else they talk to is sending them a note to say, thanks for talking to me. And somewhere, somehow along the line, it's going to come back to you. So I just think that wow factor is a really great idea.
I love that. And, I feel like there's probably a lot of people listening, if they own their own business, they have the wow factor of how maybe what their wow factor is with their clients. But I love the fact that you gave your son the wow factor of people that aren't their clients. You know what I mean?
Right.
That they're not his clients yet. And so what's that wow factor? So listeners, if you own a business and the people that aren't your clients yet, that you have reached out to, that maybe have expressed interest, what can you do for the wow factor for them? Like that's a big tip right there. That's awesome. Love it. Wow factor.
Wait, I have to tell you something funny. I probably shouldn't admit this on a podcast, but because it'll be recorded for all time. But like every mom, I love my kids and I want to help them as much as I can. And so I sent my son a care package with some things and thank you cards and stamps to make sure he had them readily available.
Yes.
He was grateful. What can I
say? That's perfect. That's the little nudge that sometimes they need. Yeah, that's great. Okay, good. Yeah. Okay. Do you have another aha?
I do. So I think it's very important to know and you've probably all heard this, but I think it's really important to know your why. And the reason I say that is because I think that if you're in it just for the money, at some point, it's just not going to be enough to keep you going. I think money is great. I love what money can enable you to do, but I just think you have to have some other bigger reason for what you're doing. So for me, it's going to sound so corny, but it really is the truth. Remember I said I was passionate about business owners? Mm-hmm. I have a lot of respect for somebody who can have a product or service and set out their shingle and bust their butt and be successful. Your chiropractor or your vet or your auto repair, whoever it is. I mean, we know they're working hard and they're doing something they're passionate about and helping someone in the world. And so I have a lot of respect for that. And I feel like we live in a country where you can grow up with nothing and you can work hard and you can be something or you can open that business. We have that opportunity in this country. And I just love that. And so I feel like if I can partner with a business owner and take a piece of their business, I don't know how much you know about it, but it's it's a hard piece. It's very expensive. It's hard to get good customer service. A lot of people are being ripped off. When you open a business, it's the last thing you do. You don't research. Usually, hey, what should I do for merchant services? What's the best deal for this? You just open. I was going to say open the phone book. You just
Google,
right?
Yeah.
You Google, and whatever pops up is what you go with. And so there's really a lot of people that don't have the best fit for their business. And so if I can come in and make that really painful piece of their business better for them by making it less expensive, by giving them a real person to help them through it, I kind of partnered with them in their business.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the exciting part to me. And so I think if you own a business, you have to have something that gets you excited besides, not that the money doesn't, but besides just the money.
Yeah. In addition to the money, the something and the money. Yeah.
There we go. Thank you. You said it well.
Yes. Yeah. I love it. I love it. Oh my gosh. That's awesome. So let me ask you, what are your goals moving forward for your own business and for your life?
Sure. So I think it's really important to take care of yourself. You can't pour from an empty cup. So you have to have a positive mindset. I think life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it.
Yes.
And otherwise you're going to be just depressed all the time. I think you really have to count your blessings. And even though sometimes it can be really hard, I think you have to, when something happens, try to figure out how could it be worse. Sometimes I stop myself and I think, you know what? These are first world problems. Right. Which I'm grateful to have, to be honest.
Yes. Yeah. Mindset. I agree with you on that. Well, taking care of yourself, first of all, being healthy, right? As a stress management coach, I mean, that is something that I'm always working with people on, because stress can affect every area of health possible. And the whole positive attitude, the more that science continues to talk about, every thought that you have somehow affects your neurology, your biology, and it all makes a difference. And, by changing our thoughts, by changing the positive, the mindset that we have, we can literally change our biology to be better, our health to be better. And so I think that's so key. That is something that I'm always working on for myself, number one, and that I'm always helping my clients do as well. And, it's so interesting. We don't always catch what we say and what we think, and others can, you know what I mean? Trained people can be like, did you just hear yourself say that? You know what I mean? So, okay. Love that. And the gratitude piece, of course, right? Always, that's huge. Love that.
Another thing that I'm really working on is I want to spend on experiences, not stuff. There's way more joy. There's longer lasting effects, but I will say you have to do it according to where you are in life. When the kids are small, they probably, if you can do it, need or want Christmas presents at Christmas. But my kids got to an age where they were a little bit older. And one year I said, hey, what do you guys think about, instead of the stuff, let's do something together. And as especially as the kids get older, they have their own money. They can buy their own stuff.
Yes.
Okay, when I was little and we were really poor, you had a wish list of what you wanted and you waited all year.
Yes.
And Christmas, you got the stuff. Well, we don't live in that society anymore. We're in an instant gratification, and I'm making broad generalizations, you understand?
Yes,
but,
yes.
And especially as kids get older, they have their own money. They don't need you to buy them stuff. And so we had the best time. We went during Christmas, we went on vacation. We went to Mexico to an all-inclusive. My kids had never been out of the country. They'd never been in an all-inclusive. I did not have to shop. I didn't decorate. I didn't fight the crowds. Oh my gosh, it was the best ever. And even if we're not taking a big trip like that, this is funny. When my kids were small, I remember my husband and I would be like, oh, we gotta have a date night. We gotta get away from the kids. What can we do? Where can we go? And now my kids are all grown and gone. And I'm like, oh, how can I get the kids? What can we do with the kids? How can I get them to spend time with me? Not because they don't want to, they're just busy.
Right, right.
You have to base the experiences and the things, and you have to balance it based on the age of your kids. We're in a wonderful spot where we're empty nesters. And so we travel with our kids whenever we can. I think they do it with us because they know we're going to pay.
Yes. Yes.
But I'm okay with that because
Yes.
it gets them to spend time with me. And, it's funny. I really like them. They turned out to be really great, fun human beings that I love to spend time with. So
yes, I agree. Like we really enjoy hanging out with, I have a 19 and 22-year-old, right? I feel like it'll be even better when my 19-year-old is over 21. Like we'll just have opportunities to, go different places as well and things. But, just both of them being, adults, it does make it makes it fun right now,
It is,
so,
I agree.
Yeah.
But I will say to anyone listening out there with small kids, this is really important. It's hard, but you have to really try to enjoy every minute because I know,
Yes.
Kelly, you'll agree with me. Man, you just literally blink.
Yes, and it's over.
And it's gone. They had some commercial on TV the other day, and it was like a flashback of the daughter all the way down to the ultrasound. And my husband and I, he's going to kill me for saying this, but we're sitting on the couch crying.
Yeah.
Because it feels like a reel of a commercial gone.
Yes.
Crazy.
And it does go by so fast. And, I look at, this is one of the things that I talk about when I speak is that because my stress level was so high at one point, I was not present. And so then not only does time go by so fast, just in general, I look at the chunk of time that I really wasn't present with my kids, and I can't get that back.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like if I could I would do anything to like go back and really have that time. And so now I'm waiting for grandchildren so that I can like, you know what I mean? Like be better. You know what I mean? Like, okay, right. Well, I like my second chance will be when I get to, be a grandma and just be more present with my grandchildren. So
yes. Yeah. And it's supposed to be more fun. We'll compare notes.
Yes, exactly. So what do you feel like, I always like to keep it real on here because I feel like, whether you're a business owner, a professional, whatever, we're all facing challenges. What challenges do you still experience?
I think my biggest challenge, and I imagine most people would say this, is just not having enough time.
Time. Yep.
Yeah. I'm working on time management. But one thing I did learn, actually, I learned this in Premier Designs. And it stuck with me, and it's really useful. You should do the things that only you can do and let someone else do what anyone can do.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of truth to that. And if you are a control freak like myself, it's hard to do, but you have to come to terms with the fact that you don't have to do everything. So, for example, if you can afford it and you can hire someone to clean your house, anybody can do that. And some of us really hate it anyway.
Right.
But, you can I have an assistant, and she sends thank you cards. She writes proposals. She does customer follow-up calls. I'm out there working with the customer, doing the things that I need to do as the owner and as the face. So if you can decide which things you can do, and you're the only one who can do it, and which things someone else can do. It's very interesting. My middle child is in the Air Force, and he's stationed in Okinawa, Japan. And we were supposed to go see him right before COVID, and we all know what happened. So they finally opened up in November. And the minute they opened up, we had saved and saved and saved and saved. And my husband had the time, and then we didn't go. And now all of us, we still had the money, and he had the time. And so we were like, oh, they're open, we're going. So we went to Japan for 2 weeks. And was I apprehensive about leaving my business for 2 weeks? You bet I was. So I proactively sent emails to all of my customers. I gave them customer support numbers, told them what I was doing. And what happened was there's a 15-hour time difference. So if you message me this morning, I'm asleep. And when I wake up, you're asleep. And you know what? The world went on.
Yes.
And the customers managed. And it was such a great lesson to me. Now, it doesn't mean I want to change any of my great customer service, but it made me realize that things can get done if for some reason I'm unavailable or I am in the middle of something else. When I first started my business, I remember a customer would call me with something, and I literally would drop everything and drive to the location and help them with what they needed. And I just learned that some things can be done over the phone or a three-way call, or, you learn as you go along.
Yes.
Things can have urgency, but they don't need the extreme urgency that you had at the beginning.
Yes.
And believe me, I still apply a lot of urgency to everything, which I still could come back, but you know what I'm saying.
That's so interesting. And I love that, talking about time. That is a huge challenge for people. And what I find that's oftentimes it's a mindset issue and it's a relationship with time that needs to be fixed, right? Some people have a relationship with money that they can only get so far in their business because they have this money mindset that keeps them stuck. And some people have a relationship with time. Right. And so there's things that like mindset wise have to be worked around that. Like that's something that I do with my clients. And I think that's super important when it comes to when you're talking about a business owner that wants to scale or that wants to start stepping back. Right. I read a book. I can't even think what it is right now that I read, but it was phenomenal. It really talked about like every year you should be taking a longer vacation to see how long you can be away from your business, because then you know what systems and processes you don't have in place to put in place. So that you can be gone. That is truly the goal. Like that's one of the things I'm helping one of my clients with right now, so that she can scale up and yet she's not still trying to do everything herself. Like no one can scale and still do everything themselves. You know what I mean? Like it's, you know, at some point you got to let go. And like you said, what are the things that we can only do and that we can have others do? And that all boils back down to that whole time piece. So yes. So anyway, next year, Lisa, I encourage you to take a 3-week vacation.
Well, if you gave me permission, I'm in. Listen, this is what my husband says to me. He says, your fun lamp is on. And I said, yes, it is. And you better make sure you're under the shade so you can come along with me.
Yes. That's awesome. Okay. So what, I love asking this question, what accomplishments are you really proud of that you'd like to share?
I have a few, you know, like everybody has, things you did, things you won. So I was very excited to be named the small business person of the year for O'Fallon, Illinois by Lineable.
Congratulations.
Kind of fun. Thank you.
Yes.
And I'm currently the president of my BNI chapter. And actually twice I was voted the all-star of the chapter. And it's an honor because the other members vote for the all-star. So I was really honored for that.
And my guess is if I feel like being in the networking community, my guess is part of that goes back to the whole Zig Zigler of you're helping others. It's the whole giving, which is why that is you. And that is the philosophy that you live by, which is probably one of the reasons you ended up getting the all-star. Would you say that's right?
I would say that's 100%. Yes. You said that very well, by the way.
Yeah.
And then, you know, of course, starting my own business. That was, it's always a leap of faith. And I'm really proud that I have been able to do that and to be able to help so many business owners. I'm very proud of that.
Yeah.
And then, you know, this is going to sound so cliche, but I'm of course very proud of my kids. They've all turned into very contributing, awesome adults. And lastly, you know, just we're going to be married 33 years this year. And marriage is wonderful, but if you've been married, if you are married, you know it's hard, and there's a lot of ups and downs. And I think you have to, when you're in a down, you have to realize it's gonna come back up, and you just have to stick through it with the down. And I always say, the grass might look greener, but you still have to cut it.
That's right.
You might as well work really hard at cutting the grass you got.
That's right.
Here we are. And, you know, sometimes we joke around because being empty nesters, we're like, well, it's a good thing we still like each other.
Yeah.
And we do. And I'm very blessed and fortunate. He's really a wonderful man. He's a keeper. I'm so grateful. And I am pretty proud of being married that long.
That's wonderful. Congratulations on that. Yes. Okay. Now tell us, because I see here that you've done some orchestra stuff. What instrument do you play?
I play the violin.
The violin. Okay.
Yeah. I started in fourth grade. And in school, they said, pick an instrument. Do not even ask me why I picked the violin, because it is the hardest instrument to learn. And so I played from fourth grade all the way through high school. I was in the high school orchestra. We went to the Ottawa International Music Festival. Oh, there we go. We won an award. And I loved it. And then I got to college, and orchestra night was the same as sorority night. And take a guess which way I went. So I quit, and I didn't pick it up again until my youngest was, I don't know, maybe 10, and he's about to be 25. And it's kind of like riding a bike, thankfully. And of course, my mother was thrilled because you know how moms are trying to get you to practice. And so I'm so grateful that I didn't quit back in the day. And I will strongly say, if you have kids who are taking lessons, try to nag them. They'll be grateful later. Because I'm very grateful. And so I play in the Belleville Intergenerational Orchestra, which is fun because it's like fourth grade up to adults. Makes
yes. Oh my gosh, that's great.
Yeah, but it's fun. And then I play every Sunday in my church orchestra at St. Matthew in Belleville.
Okay. Oh, fabulous. Well, good. I love seriously, when we use our talents as adults, you know what I mean? That's fabulous. I am a dancer, and so the workout that I love to do incorporates dance. Okay. So I feel like every time I go to work out, I'm using like my talent, which is great for me. However, during 2020, and if you've heard the story already, listeners, I apologize. But during 2020, I started what I called porch dances because we all needed a little bit of fun during 2020. So in the spring, Friday evenings at about 4:30, somewhere around there, literally, I would go outside on my porch and I would do a dance. I would just do like a minute and a half. I did tap dancing. I did like funk. I did 70s. I did baton twirling. I did hula hooping. You name it, I did it because it was fun. And like, I grew up dancing, and it's just if you turn on music, I'm going to dance. Like, that's just the way it is. And so I brought that back, and I had people that they'd put in requests, and they could not wait till Fridays at 4:00 when Kelly came on and did her porch dance. And it was really exciting. And then I did a fall set. I had to take a break over the summer. Y'all, summers in St. Louis are like 95 degrees with humidity of 100%. Yeah. It was hot, and I was like, it's hot. So then I came back and did a little tiny fall session, like a fall season. And then after that in 2021, well, the world opened up and we all started working again. Like, I got to go back to work. You know what I mean? And so it kind of stopped, but I still get requests to do my porch dance. People are always like, when's your porch dance coming back? And I'm like, I'm sorry, but anyway, it's a talent that I have. And I did have some fun with it during COVID. So it was great. Well, Lisa, where can our followers find you? And definitely, if anyone is interested in merchant services, correct? They for sure need to connect with you to make sure. Can you do anyone all over the United States, or are you more Illinois, Missouri area?
No, I can work anywhere. And what I do is just a free rate review, and I'll either come back and tell you it's great, you should keep what you have forever, or here's how I can help you. There's no obligation.
And I know that you said earlier that there are times when you tell people,
right?
You know what I mean? Like, hey, what you have is working for you. So that's fantastic. So anyway, if you're someone that uses, what do you call it? Merchant?
Yeah, it's a fancy name for credit card processing.
Perfect. If you use credit card processing and would like someone just to take a look at what you're doing and see if it's the best for you, please look Lisa up. So she's on LinkedIn and then Facebook. And then Lisa, what's your website?
The website's www.beaconpaymentsmidwest.com. And my Facebook page is Beacon Payments Midwest.
And that's Beacon, BEACON, Beacon Payments Midwest. And I will link all of those in the show notes so that everybody will have them as well. And I really do encourage you, all listeners, if the credit card processing is what you do, like, take Lisa up on this, just to get a free review rate. And y'all, if you might end up saving money, and who doesn't love to save money? So there you go.
There you go.
Excellent. Well, I have so enjoyed chatting with you and having you on today. It's been a pleasure.
I've had a great time, Kelly. You're an amazing woman, and I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much.
Well, you are so welcome. And to my listeners, I appreciate you listening today. And as always, if you would like, share, comment, let other people know about the Winning in Business podcast, because just like Lisa being a great guest who's sharing some great tips every week, I have other great guests on. So hope to see you next week. And until then, rise up and live. Thank you for being a part of the Winning in Business podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode and want to rise up to your next level of success, but are worried about increased stress, time for work and yourself and your family, not to mention being exhausted, I'd like to invite you to a complimentary strategy call where I'll show you how you can do it all. I'll help you reclaim time, keep your sanity, handle the chaos with ease, and move to the next level of success that you deserve and desire. I hope you found value in listening today. Please always leave your comments, feedback, or questions. We check them all. I want you to continue winning in business and reach your next level of success. See you next time.